All right, so we're gonna get started, and then if people join in, then well, great. But they'll miss our exciting intro. So hi, if you're new, I think it's mostly people who were here last time. But I'm Kate McCormick. I'm here with Dustin, and this is our second meeting. And today, just to start, I'm gonna share with you the results from our. Well, we'll start with the tweet of the week. And sorry, in the background, I have a cat who's very excited. Right, so our tweet of the week is, can everyone see this? Are we good? Okay,
yes,
great.
I can see it.
So it's crazy how objective attractiveness is just what two dudes thought about participants. But that's just science, baby, which has become my new catchphrase. That's just science, baby, whenever I come and see something absolutely ridiculous. So I can't believe this study happened in recent years. But this I saw on Twitter, caught my eye, thought it was hilarious. Someone came into the comments and was like, well, they did a follow-up study with 10 people judging attractiveness. But anyway, I thought we'd start with that to get into it.
So you too can publish just about anything.
This is what the world has come to. So as always, highlighting some super great research. If you want to get into this kind of work, then apparently you can, and maybe you'll get tenured. So thanks so much for everyone who completed our first survey. So just a kind of summary of what we went through. Unsurprisingly, since this is the world that we're kind of immersed in, a lot of the people who are doing this, out of our 8 respondents, but this is actually pretty reflective of who we've gotten or heard from so far. Or clinical science. I know if you're my sibling, you didn't fill out the survey, but we also have a lot of psych people here. So if you feel like you're missing something, or you want us to talk a bit more broadly and want to bring other people in from your areas, feel free to do that. I think Dustin feels similarly, that a lot of these tools that we're giving are applicable broadly in the quantitative sciences and qualitative work as well. So this, we're also excited to see that, sorry, I'm a little clunky with this. People are excited about again, I just threw this survey together. It's not the best survey, so apologize. But people are excited about people are apparently interested in some of the things we floated. So we're super psyched about that. We might try doing R next week. So we'll reach out. I know we're not gonna have you do surveys every single week, but just so you're aware, we're going to send out a survey to just gauge where people are, what their comfort is, what their familiarity is with R. And we're also, someone gave us a good, let us know that they were interested in setting up a new time for the summer, which I think is a great idea. Saturdays during the summer, probably not ideal. So we'll have our next meeting on a Saturday as well, but then I think maybe after that we'll kind of switch into summer mode as their schedules are changing.
I think Saturday has become my neighbor's lawn mowing day, so it would be good not to coincide with an older gentleman mowing his lawn very loudly next door. Yeah. It's just the mower that's loud. He's not loud. Just to be clear, that there's nothing else going on. So yeah, we'll try to figure that out. And one other thing, as we talked about Twitter last week, and we're going to try to do this tweet of the week every week. So feel free to share some with us if you found something that was really enjoyable. It can be science related, like the attractiveness according to 2 dudes, or it can be something else. So feel free to pass that along to our email address or tweet at us. But as you're using Twitter, please, in the chat box here, throw in your Twitter handle so that we can all follow each other and get that going. So we'll also email it out a little bit later. But thought that would be good. We're building a community here.
Not a commune. And yeah, because someone did this week, just to float this out, if you previously had Twitter, but you want to start a professional research Twitter, I think that's a great idea. And would encourage that. And you'll get a bunch of guaranteed followers you'll at least get 2 out of Justin and me.
Yeah, and then we'll also have our UCAN grad school follow you as well. So there's 3. We'll see what happens. Kate, was there anything else that you wanted to do up at the top here?
I think those are the big things. I also, sorry, I guess I lied. Someone also mentioned talking about mentorship, which I think is a really good idea. So further on, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And really excited about that. We won't record that conversation just so people can feel like they can ask like their questions or talk a little bit about their struggles or seek out any resources without worrying about that going up on YouTube later. But also, as Emil said, if you want to share the first YouTube with everyone or anyone who might be interested, would encourage you to do that.
And then we'll have one episode where Kate and I will do a watch through of the latest Star Wars. So that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. Don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about that happening. So yeah, we want, as we said last week, this is going to be really open. We want this to be useful to everybody. And I've found that each time that I do something like this, I've found something new. And it's really great to have this type of a community where we can talk about these things. But today's topic is going to be, unless Kate has anything again. Okay, we're good. This week's topic is going to be more around identifying literature and really organizing and searching literature to make things as useful as possible for you. So this is when Kate and I will talk a lot about Zotero. And by no means are we getting any kickbacks from Zotero, but if you know somebody at Zotero and are like, hey, these people are talking a lot about you, have them give us money. That would be great.
I need a sign.
So we'll talk about ways and processes that we found helpful in you find a research article and then what do you do with it? Before, I just had folders on my computer that were like, this is what I was reading at this time, and that was not helpful in the long term. So we'll start. This is going to be a lot of like screen sharing and things like that. So feel free to either speak up or in the chat box, let us know if we need to stop or do anything there. But I will first start by searching for an article. And some of the ways that one of the more introductory ways that you can do this is through Google Scholar. So some ways that you can do this, we can all hopefully see my Firefox open and all of the random things that I search for. I was just going to search for Firefox. That's not a way to do it. But you can go to Google Scholar, and I have an account here, so it will suggest some recommended articles for me. But let's say, oh look, there is Julianne's paper. Let's go take a look at that. So Julianne is someone in our lab who is awesome and wonderful, and she just published this. So go read it, go support her, tweet about it, do whatever you need to do. But you can see here that this is a recent paper that just came out, and it is behind a paywall. A lot of research in our area has this paywall, which is frustrating and annoying. But one of the first things that I wanted to highlight was this Google Scholar button, it's called. So it is this little guy up here. And when you click on it, if you're already on a site that has a paper on it, it will copy the title of it in, and it will give you like the abstract. It'll show you all 6 versions that it can find, or however many versions. If you want to just be copying in the citation, you can hit this little quote button, and it will give you all different styles of citations. So this can be a really helpful tool. But the one piece that is really nice is it will show if there's any open access areas that you can get the paper. So if I were to click here, it will hopefully bring me to a page where I can actually download the document. And here I can, right here. So that is one way. Google Scholar is this Google Scholar button, which is available for Chrome. I use Firefox a lot. I like the privacy settings around Firefox. But it's available for both Firefox, for Chrome. Not sure about Safari or Microsoft Edge or whatever they're calling their new browser. So Google Scholar is a really great, the button can be very helpful for these things. And it's just a nice little plugin that you can go here, you can start pasting things in. Like if I try to search for my own name, none of my papers come up, which is exciting. But then I can start adding some more, and then there it is. And here we're able to get PDFs from in a clear way, so it's very straightforward. So that's one thing that has been really helpful here. Kate, is there anything you want to add about the Google Scholar button?
I just like it because you can search things while you're on a different page, or like if you're within a paper and you kind of want to just like get a quick summary. I think that's really nice. But yeah, it's just a little tool I think is really valuable.
It will always open a new tab as well. So like what Kate was saying, say we're reading Julianne's paper and we see, oh, there's this paper by Karen Rudolph that we want to check out. So you can copy that citation, go up here. I've already copied it, so it actually throws it up into the search bar. And then when I go to open it, it opens it in a new tab. So your workflow is still preserved there, which is really nice. And it will try to send you to a site that you can download the manuscript. So you can see up here, there is you can download a PDF of this article. So that is, go to the Chrome Web Store, go to the Firefox store, and search for Google Scholar button extension, and you should be able to add that very quickly. One of the other ones that you might have seen as I was searching through the papers is this site called Unpaywall. This is a more advanced version of that Google Scholar button in a way, where it will look through multiple databases to try to find an open source, freely accessible article. So this again is just a little extension that you add on to your browser. So up here you can see there is this Unpaywall button. What is really nice though is, so here I am on Julianne's paper, and you can see there is this little button over here, and it's saying that it can't find any legal open access versions. So this button will highlight into green if it can find and identify your article for free. But you can see sometimes it depends on the link or where you are, because if we look over at this one, this is just the other link that I found for the same paper through Google Scholar. Now we have the unlocked button over here, and I can click on it, and then it directs me straight to a PDF. So this is, you don't have to log in through your university or get behind any sort of paywall. These are just going to be open access articles that you're able to freely get. So Unpaywall is another great extension. I am not sure if this is only, it looks like it's only for Firefox at this time from what this page is telling me, but it might just be because I'm on Firefox. So I would suggest transitioning to Firefox if you are in a space to do that. It has some really great functionality, but Unpaywall can be a really helpful and useful thing. I would like to use more descriptive words, but it is just a thing right now. So we have the Google Scholar button. We have the Unpaywall button, we'll call it. And what then happens if you get to a paper and you're like, oh no, I can't, no matter what I do, I can't get this from Julianne. She has sold everything to the publisher, and they want to charge me $40 to get a PDF of this article. Don't ever buy articles. I don't think anybody here would, but just as a public service announcement, don't ever buy an article. There are other ways that you can get it, and we'll talk about those here in the next few minutes. But if Google Scholar doesn't work, if Unpaywall doesn't work, you can, and this is something that we advise against. This is something that is very illegal and not something that you should necessarily be doing. But it is a way to make science free and open. And it is this very nasty site called Sci Hub. And it will change URLs every once in a while just because it is so, it needs to jump around to different servers. So just, you can search for Sci Hub to make sure that you're not going here. And what we can do is take Julianne's article, we'll copy it and paste it here. And again, don't ever do this if you want free articles. This is not the way to do it, where you can see, here's the paper. It was very easy to get, but we don't want to do that because we want to make sure that the publishers get all the money that is there.
It's wrong.
So that is another way that shady people will go and get these papers. So you have to make sure that you're not doing these things. So Sci Hub is the one that we don't recommend. That is very easy to use and get papers. We have Unpaywall, we have the Google Scholar button, and those are all ways to access files, to access these journal articles, to be able to read them and incorporate them into your own literature. Kate, I think those were the few big ones that we wanted to hit. Any comments there on these things?
Yeah, so I don't, but my friend Kathleen uses Sci Hub a lot, especially sometimes when you're under university Wi-Fi. It's usually like I have no problems, but since I've been going remote, or since Kathleen's been going remote, she's been using Sci Hub a little bit more. But also it was a new Unpaywall was a new tool that actually Dustin just told me about, so I'm going to try and utilize that a little bit more. And something, I'm not going to pass this off as information that I am in sole possession of. Dustin just told me an hour ago that Unpaywall usually works if it's been published, like a year or two ago, were you saying? So like if you have a brand spanking new paper, like that might be harder to access if you're not in a university system, or your university doesn't do that for you, which is not the case for a lot of people, but may occasionally be someone's situation. And you can comment in the chat if you have a question. So sometimes though, sorry, Dustin, go ahead.
Okay. With their different journals have different holds on when they will allow for papers to be public record. And it also depends on where the funding came from to support the research. I know NIMH usually has, I think it's 1 to 2 year hold on manuscripts. And journals, there's lots of different things that can be talked about when it comes to journals, and so we won't spend time on that. But these are just ways that if you're not able to have university access, or your university doesn't happen to pay for that particular journal, which I think some of the California schools have recently withdrawn their support of Elsevier articles, so that can also be somewhat tricky. Kate, do you want to take the question that you shut down earlier?
Didn't shut down, wanted to encourage the use of chat. So yeah, you can use VPN, that's totally possible. For me, like I just said, frequently have an unstable VPN connection. And so, especially with everyone crowding the VPN these days. So sometimes it's just a lot easier. Or Kathleen thinks it's a lot easier to use Sci Hub. So that's why I do that. Also, just because I'm lazy and the VPN kicks me off every once in a while, and I don't want to log in again. So that's a big thing. But sometimes there's an article, or I think more often there is a measure that you can't get because it's not easily accessible. And what do you do then? So so this week I actually had an example of that. So I'm working on a study with the lab that I'm going to be joining next year, and we were looking at a social media use survey. And if anyone actually has any, shout out if you have any good ideas for social media use surveys. So I found one that seemed to, I looked in the methods section, and it looked like it was a really good survey. Seemed really promising in asking the kind of questions in the way that we wanted asked. But I couldn't find the actual copy of the survey. It wasn't publicly available. So the first thing I did was I checked to make sure that the paper I was looking at, that the person, that like which author, made that survey, what lab it was. For this, the first author was also the principal investigator for the lab. I navigated to his website, and a lot of times people also might have their questionnaire that they've used or scales they've used on their website if they've created it themselves. I personally think it's really important to do that. Justin shares the same sentiment. If you want your scale to be widely used and a reliable scale, like you want to share it with other people so they can use it and see if it's good, Obviously that's not everyone shares this view. Julia, who's on this right now, and at my old job, we came across a scale, like medical adherence. So I think it was like a 2-question item about whether you use meds, and it cost like a small fortune to use. And he was going around suing people if you tried to use this. And that, really limits the amount of people who can use it. So as you get further on in your careers and if you start making your own measures and doing it correctly, it's good to have these as public access. So anyway, but this wasn't. So I went ahead and I emailed this researcher to ask if he'd be willing to share his measure with me. Here's the email I wrote. It's a little clunky because I just kind of wrote it in an afternoon, but I just said where I was coming from, which is technically not where I am now, but will be in a few months. What's the study we were working on is, added a little bit of flattery, and then asked if I could obtain a copy. And he was actually great. He responded right away, and I now have that survey, which I can use or potentially use. So that was really helpful. One thing I would caution, and this hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm sure it could, is just to make sure you've exhausted all your options. So you're not asking them for something that's easily accessible, and they probably won't remember it, but just to, avoid the potential of annoying someone who has power in the field. Hopefully they'll be generous, but just in case. So, and then Emily in the chat had a really good point. You can request things from the library, and libraries and librarians are super helpful and a great resource that, I'll be honest, I don't use probably enough. Anything to add there, Dustin?
Yeah, I think librarians can be very helpful and underutilized. Sometimes these things might be, you just need to get a citation in because you need it right then in order to submit a paper, or you need to finalize something. And ideally, it would be great to wait those few days to get that. It can be really, really great to have that, but sometimes you just need to get the citation and be able to do that. So these are all really great options to making sure that you can be efficient and effective in implementing your research.
That's great. So now you have everything you need, and you're looking to either cite something or add it to a reference, a a citation manager. So how do you do that? So again, as Dustin and I mentioned, I feel like I'm like the #1 Zotero fan person. But you can also have Zotero as a plugin. So the primary thing, the first thing I use it for is organizing papers that I want to read later. And so let me just share. Okay. Oops, sorry.
While Kate is doing whatever it is that she's doing, what citation managers have other people used? Feel free to type that out in the chat, or say what are some things that you've used or how you organize your papers. Okay, we see some Mendeley.
Cool. It would be good to hear from, maybe we can add people in if they feel comfortable talking about why they use Mendeley. I went straight from EndNote to Zotero, largely because I was working in my old job. We had trouble getting EndNote if we sent a Word document, it would completely destroy everything that we'd worked for. So I found Zotero was more seamless. So if you can see it right now, this is how I organize my Zotero library. So I have a broader file like for reproductive transitions and then subfiles within there. The other thing that I find really helpful with Zotero is that you can organize group libraries and give them funny names. So this is a project Dustin, our former postdoc Elisa, and I worked on for a little bit. And so we did this. This is an initial lit search, Vivian searching the world, that I did with an undergraduate. And then I made a separate lab Zotero account that's not taken off, but happy to pass down. And that was so I had shared files for them. And the cool thing about Zotero is that also, which I would imagine Mendeley also has, is you can click on the citation and it'll have saved the PDF. So I'm going to hand it over to Dustin to talk a little bit about how to download this and what the benefit, how to like integrate it within your work.
Yeah, and Zotero is something that I've been trying to use more like Kate does. Usually mine is just I put all of my papers in there and I don't organize it because it has a really nice search function. So you can search for any paper and be able to do that. Zotero is free. It is open source, which is really great. That means that it can have, anybody can provide updates or input into it. The Zotero plugin is, I forgot to queue this up as I was queuing up all the other things. So it works very similarly to some of the plugins that we've seen already, where you're able to be looking at a document, being able to look at a PDF and put it right into your Zotero account, into your desktop Zotero client. And I will find the link specifically for the different plugins because there's lots of documentation for various things. But being able to integrate that can be really helpful. And just to put that into a little bit more concrete terms, I will show you, we will continue using, let's see, yeah, we'll be over here. And we'll continue using Julianne's paper as a good example of these things. But here we have the article that we found, and it doesn't link to anything, so we'll go through the appropriate steps because I closed everything out already. And here we'll be able to see we have the PDF that I will try to download. And even though it says download PDF, it always usually brings you to this type of a page where you just view the PDF. So here we're looking at the paper. I have my Zotero open as well, and it is not as organized as Kate's, so avert your eyes. But it is open, and you'll see here that there is a little plugin. Occasionally, you'll have to refresh the page to get the PDF to appear, because right now this is just a web page with a snapshot. So let's see if that works. And then you can see the little PDF icon pops up, and I will click that, and it will think about it for a little while and give me that little check mark. We'll go back to Zotero, and you can see it has imported Julianne's paper right here. There is the PDF. It renames it for you, which is really nice, with the last name of the first author, and it provides some structure rather than whatever Firefox or Chrome usually downloads it as, with a series of letters and numbers that you have to rename. And we can click on it, open it up, and here is the paper. So that was seamless in terms of identifying the paper and then putting it into what we're actually using. So that can be really helpful. It can be a lot easier. And then if you want to move it from here into another category, like let's say I wanted to move this into the intervention paper that I'm writing. And you should be able to drag and drop it, but my computer's being very slow and it's not working. There we go. Oh, and it's telling me no because it's being very slow. Okay, you can drag and drop. that will work as well. So now you have that information, and you're able to then organize. You can tag things. You can do lots of additional information. You can add a lot more onto these papers, which is really nice and useful. Kate, do you have anything to add there?
Let me unmute myself. Yeah, so one thing I found it also is you can pre-organize it. So you can, when you're clicking on the Zotero plugin, it can tell you like sorry, loud scratcher here. It can tell you, like, ask you where you want to put it. And so I do that a lot of times because I'm not as good about organizing it after it's in Zotero. And I also, just to be honest, is like, sometimes I'm really lazy. And so I want things to be there. And also another thing that you can do in Zotero, which you can also do in Mendeley, is you can annotate and then it'll save it within Zotero. So I think that's helpful too, because you can pull up an old article and look at your old notes and highlights. And so I've done that before. And again, I like that it's really collaborative. And if the Mendeley people want to jump in, you can either email us after and we can share this with the group. But it'd be good to know if you can do this as well in Mendeley. I would imagine you can, but maybe we can send out like a comp between those two. And this is good, again, why it's nice to have a larger group come on these calls to hear more about resources and broaden perspectives.
I think my understanding of Mendeley is it saves the paper within Mendeley itself, whereas what Zotero does is it organizes your PDF. So when you drop it in here, it puts it into its own subset of folders, and it saves it as a PDF. So you can access it, you can move it, and you can share that PDF that you're actually editing and save it somewhere else. Whereas I think Mendeley is more confined to the Mendeley service itself, which is nice, and a little bit more versatile on Zotero. But should we transition into, now we have the paper and we're writing? Unless, Kate, you got something else.
Just a question. So someone said, has anyone run out of storage on Zotero? Any tips or solutions? I haven't. Have you, question? Have you, Elena, if that I'm saying your name right? Oh.
I think she's saying yes. She's muted.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You can do thumbs up or thumbs down. There you go. All right.
Cool.
Yeah, so it does, Zotero has a limit on how much can be saved into their cloud storage. So this would be if you are working on multiple machines and you want to be citing across these computers that you're using. If you save and have everything saved to your desktop, then it is just a limit of how much storage space you have on your computer, because it'll take all the PDFs that you already have and just organize it in a way that makes sense from a computer language perspective. So there are other workarounds that I had in the past where I was saving things to like a Dropbox-like account and being able to access it through Zotero, but Zotero cut that support off for that. So if there are other ways, you can always save it to, I think there are other workarounds that can come into play, but it would still be like you have to pay for extra space on Dropbox or something like that. So usually what I do is I back everything up to an external hard drive, and then I have it all there just in case something happens, like my daughter spills chocolate milk on my computer, which hasn't happened yet. Usually it's apple juice that she drinks.
All right. All right, so should we talk about integrating it into?
Yeah, that sounds good. So that is on me again. So I'm sorry if I've been talking too much, or I've been told in the past I've given lectures on sleep, since that's my area of research, and I've gotten feedback from undergraduates saying that my voice puts them to sleep. So I apologize. I'll try different variations in how I talk, but you get what you get. So this is, now you've organized all of your papers, and you're starting to put together your own journal article. And Zotero has very nice integration with Word, so you are able to write and insert citations seamlessly, which I think is also something that Mendeley has. And there are additional plugins that you can have to use Zotero on Google Drive and Google Docs. This is not something that I've done just yet, but I know is a possibility. So if someone wants to know more about that, we can look into it. What I'll do right now is I'll share my screen, and we will look at integrating and how that looks and how simple and straightforward it can be. So here we see my methods section, which is a document that I've been working on for my prelim. I don't want to look at the other sections because they're not as nice and clean as this one. And we're presenting the methods. I have different participants, we have different measures, and let's say now I'm talking about a measurement that measures childhood depression symptoms, and it's called the Children's Depression Inventory. And so I'm writing about it. Say the Children's Depression Inventory is I think it's 23 item scale, and I need a citation for it. So here I'll put CDI, and then you can see I've integrated Zotero here, and I can hit add or edit citation. I still have Zotero open on my computer so that it can access that. I also have a keyboard shortcut, which is really nice, and I sometimes forget what it is, but look at that, I remembered. And so what will happen is this little guy will come up, and it's just a search bar for all of the documents that you have. So I know that the CDI is developed by Kovacs et al. And here we go. There is the one that I'm looking for, I think. Nope, it's this one. So there we go. There's that, and I hit enter. It will then say, it'll look at my document before, and it'll say, hey, you tweaked some of these already. Do you want to keep that the way it was? This was an in-text citation, so I didn't want it in parentheses, so I took those away. I'll say, yes, I want to keep all of that stuff. And then here you go. There is the citation. And you can even modify it. So I've already had parentheses there. And there it is. And it is integrated there directly with some of the other ones that all the other references that I've put in there. And this can be really helpful and really nice because you have all the in-text citations. And then now what you can do is we will go to a new page. Let's see, insert a page break. And now I want to put in all my references. So I go back to the Zotero tab up at the top, and I say I want to edit a bibliography. And there are all of my references. Whenever you start a paper and you're integrating Zotero, the first time you add a citation, it will ask you what type of formatting you want to use. And that can be changed. So here I have the document preferences, and it automatically, because I'm writing an APA, has the updated 7th edition. Say I want to change citation styles. I can go down to, let's say, sure, Chicago. I hit OK. Everything refreshes, and then it reformats all of the citations. This is something that can be really save tons and tons of time, and I think this is one of the biggest time sucks that I've seen senior academics having to pawn this off on undergraduates or project coordinators or whoever just to do this. And so if you have this set up in the beginning,
save a ton of time. Next is, let's say I chose the wrong here. I can go back to my citation. It's 92.1 was.
I add that, it puts it in there, and then all I have to do is refresh the document. And it will include it will update the citation and the references there. That saves a ton of time, and I really hope that that's something that either you're currently doing or you're planning on doing, because you need to do it.
Yeah, it's a good time saver. Also, if you ever need to, this happened in my old job, but not this. Sometimes for grants, they require different citation styles than you're prepared for, or papers. And I do like how with Zotero, and again, I'll send out a comp document comparing these, comparing Mendeley to Zotero afterwards, even if that puts our Zotero money in jeopardy. But it's nice that you can switch between APA and, for example, I used to have to switch between AMA and different things like that. So I think that's really helpful and a great tool.
And I think there were just a couple that I wanted, a couple other resources that I thought could be helpful, that are kind of newly developing, are new to the science world. And let me share my screen again. Let's see. So this is another extension, which I think is, again, only for Firefox. It is called Cite, and it is a way to potentially make smarter citations. And you may have noticed that this is, again, Julianne's paper, which everybody should read and tweet about. You can see that whenever I go to a scientific article, it will include this little cite section. And what this does is what I think we should have been doing for a very long time, is it looks through the context in which the paper has been cited, and looks for positive or negatively valenced words to determine if this is a positive endorsement of the article or if it is a negative critique. There may be lots and lots of different papers in your field that get a lot of citations, but only because it is a bad paper or it is something that you shouldn't do. It's an example of that. But then you see a large citation number and you think that's a good index of what a paper is. So you can see this is just a sample report. We have different critiques, different citations supporting the document versus contradicting, and then versus just mentioning. A lot of times papers just get mentioned. And so this is through using deep learning and some fancy stuff that is really cool, it's able to determine and pick up on these nuances. And this is something that you just add into your browser and you can just glance over at it. A lot of the newer articles won't have it, one, because it hasn't been cited, but also it's just an iterative process that Cite is trying to expand and broaden the area that it's hitting. So that's something that you just add right onto your browser, and it's not a huge deal. The other piece that I wanted to point out was Sci Archive. This is something that we'll talk about a lot later when we mention in more detail open science and what this means. There are other areas that have different archives. I know that there's a bioarchive, and this is where you can put documents and preprints before they're called preprints, which just means it is an article that has not necessarily been peer reviewed yet, but one that you want to get out to have people look at. And there are, again, this goes into like journals and a larger discussion of what open science means. But this is where a lot of people will be putting, a lot of researchers who are more open science oriented, they will be able to deposit an article here. So we'll go to clinical psych because that's what I'm doing. But these are going to be very up-to-date articles. And you can see that it's just going to be a Word document, but you can search for different authors or researchers in your field and see what they're up to if they're depositing things here. But like I said, we'll talk more about this later on in another session. This is just an idea of, hey, Sci Archive is a thing, and we can start thinking about that. Finally, the other thing before Kate unmutes herself and I just keep talking is in order to use R Markdown, so moving forward into wanting to write a manuscript in R, which is really cool and something that I've been trying to do for a while, you need to have a citation manager that integrates into it. So Zotero does a nice job of that. I think Mendeley does as well. But that's just something to think about as we move forward, that a lot of these suggestions that we're providing will help set you up moving forward. And a lot of these things are not things that senior faculty or more advanced researchers are necessarily going to be able to integrate into their practice right now. So trying to do that early on is the goal.
Dustin, you might be the best person to answer this question. I don't know.
I've not used Jupyter Notebooks. It's something that I've been thinking about wanting to do, and I've just gotten a lot of use out of R Markdown and haven't needed to necessarily go into that direction. So I'm not sure exactly what the capabilities of Jupyter Notebooks are at this time, but I'll look into it.
So as part of our future directions, but before we get into the personal future directions, I mentioned this in the beginning, but We'll do, and by we, I mean Dustin will be kind of taking the lead on that. Sorry, I have a cat going nuts in the background. But I'm going to send out a survey to just assess how people currently use R, if they currently use R, and how familiar they are. It just in general, like also something that we'd appreciate is like getting feedback. If you want to email, that you can grad school email if you feel like the pace of things is going well. I realize like sometimes it's hard to gauge how familiar different people are with like, you know, citation styles. This might be like really old hat to you. But, you know, just getting an idea of like what would be most useful or how we can improve just because we're starting out. So yeah, so I'll send that out as well as the when is good scheduling for the summer. So if you don't quite know what your summer plans are, maybe just what would work best for you so we can find a good time. Okay, so for future directions, I mentioned last week that I started the Robber Bride. This has been excellent in that I was like, oh, I'll finish it and then I can talk about it. So this will keep me on my reading game. It's not my favorite Margaret Atwood, but it was pretty solid. And then I'm going to buy Children of Time, which is Dustin's recommendation. And then I've started a book called An Odyssey by Daniel Mendelsohn. And it's about this guy whose father takes his class. He's an English professor, and his like 70-year-old father takes his class on the book, The Odyssey. So it's supposed to be funny and interesting, and I'm excited to read it. So that's my future direction. I probably won't finish it by next week, but I'll keep you updated if anyone's interested.
My future direction is to continue watching Upload. It is an Amazon Prime show that's been really interesting. It's about what happens if we can upload our consciousness to like a server and then live our lives and still be able to talk to people who are still alive. It's really interesting. It's funny. I would definitely suggest checking that out. If you enjoy RuPaul, the last episode of RuPaul Secret Celebrity Drag Race was good. It had Dustin Milligan, who is the vet from Schitt's Creek, on. Great. It was awesome. And I'm almost done with Oryx and Crake. So anybody who wants to know about that, which is probably just Kate, I'll keep you updated.
Yeah, anyone else with recommendations or future directions for your next couple weeks?
I went out, so today I live in a small town in Germany, and so we've been locked down even longer than people in the US, so it's still nice for us. We've been able to get out a bit more, but we went for a 3-hour walk today just through the forest, so spending some time not really doing anything. We both left our phones at home and just spending some time just out walking. If you're lucky enough to be near any nature, but even if you just have somewhere to go or a loop you can do, it was really nice. We both felt really recharged when we got back.
That's a really, really great suggestion. Yeah, going outside now here in Central Illinois, it's getting a little nicer, so you're able to do those things. So that's really great. And if you take pictures or anything, send them over to us. Anybody who's outside.
We can put them up on the You Can Grad School Twitter. Oh, we get an upstate update. It's snowing here. Sorry, Patrick. Go make a snowman. Anyone else with recommendations?
All right. I think that's good. We will end it here. And we look forward to seeing you all next week and getting to talk about R and RStudio. And those who know me know that that's what I really enjoy talking about. So that will be a lot of fun.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good Saturday.
See ya.